Welcome to the Soul Happy Success series. I'm your coach and your host, Rebecca. Welcome. Today we're talking all about, interestingly, being a vegan in Texas, but also how that leads me to really consider change and how change happens and how you can change those around you, I feel, in the most effective way possible. So I am a Scottish girl in the middle of Texas. My partner's from here, and we're having a really great time. But interestingly, Texas is the land of barbecue and the good steaks, and specifically hunting in an area which I'm in, which very unpopular, bad vegan opinion, I am completely okay with. And I want to explain why, because on the outside looking in, you'd be like, I can't believe you agree with that. But that's not the case. I don't agree. I really like animals. And oh my gosh, if I go back to the beginning of my journey, which was 6 years ago when I decided to change my diet, then the way I used to eat was terrible for my body. I had a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia. I was bloated all the time. I was in pain all the time. I remember my body being so tight, I couldn't even put my socks on. Don't know if you've ever been there, but I send a lot of love to you if you have, because there's nothing worse than like a very simple daily task and not being able to action it as like a 20-year-old woman. So I changed my diet and it really did change the quality of my life. But what I understand is that this is one experience. My life is one experience. It's through my worldview. And if you haven't lived the transformation, you don't know any different. And we often feel that when we make change that's so significant for us and that changes your world, that everyone must hear about it. And this probably sounds like, up to this point, like, convert. Don't do that, right? Another bad vegan moment, don't convert. But it feels like we become a pioneer for this thing that we believe in and that has changed our lives. But what happens if you do that in such a forceful, it's all you talk about, you get very active with it way, people detach. And it's hard because when you believe in something to such a degree, it can be so painful when other people don't get it. Now, I rarely talk about veganism. Like, I wear my herbivore shirt all the time, mainly because I love dinosaurs. But I bought it at a time where I was definitely more of a, I need to show support for the cause. And why I really talk about it is because, one, there's a lot of lack of understanding about my story and about how I eat. And I think that as well, so many people are like, oh, I'm vegan, but I eat eggs. And you're like, okay, well, that's not the definition. That's your spin, which is fine. So I think there's a lot of confusion because of that. And there's a lot of people that try and make jokes that are not funny. But mainly the backlash that I've had being a vegan from the vegan community has been the absolute worst. So I can only imagine what it's like if you are an omnivore or a carnivore, even in those situations. One of my really close friends, she's full carnivore, and people that are like devoutly vegan would not be able to connect with the fact that I have a carnivore friend, which is so wild. But things that they will have highlighted is, I don't advocate for veganism enough. I'm not organic enough, because there's another level of veganism that is not just like eat fruits and vegetables, eat the right fruits and vegetables. I don't force people through my actions. So like, I wouldn't cook them food and then like drill into them like, this is why your food sources are so bad. Like, come to the dark side, we still get Oreos. I don't bring my own meals to things. So what that can look like is that there's not as much variety in veganism, because when you go to places, like if I was to go to a barbecue in Texas, like, what do you think I'm going to find? We went to a restaurant the other day with some friends, and I could eat a guacamole salad, which was iceberg lettuce, tomato, and a chunk of guacamole. Now, I love avocados, but I do not love, I'm another bad vegan moment, don't love lettuce. No, thank you, sir. You may keep your lettuce. But in that situation, it's all I could have. It makes it look like veganism is boring. And if it looks boring, people won't do it. And like, how dare I ride horses was another one. And interestingly, I really disconnected with the word vegan and still tend to use plant based more than I would use vegan because I actually don't want to be associated with that label and that group because it feels very radical. And the reason why it feels that way to me is because I don't believe that change comes through negativity and forcing people and coercing people. I believe that change comes through education and through loving people all the way there. So I've been vegan for 6 years now, and that's kind of before it was cool, before veganuary. And my friends and family have learned to cook vegan dishes and cook them when I'm not around. I allow conversations to take place where people can ask me what they think are silly questions, like where do you get your protein or your B12? And I don't force through ultimatums or making people feel bad for eating in front of me. The amount of times people have asked me, and this is really beautiful and really sad at the same time, but it's really kind that people ask me, like, is it okay if I eat this? They'll actually ask me, like, is it okay if I eat this in front of you? And I've never had a problem with it because I don't believe that I'll change people through being like, yeah, it's a problem if you eat that. Why would you, why would you want to be that person? So I think that one of the things that's really interesting too is my partner, my fiance, he went from eating 200 grams of meat-based protein a week, no, a day, gosh, a day. I said a week. Oh my gosh, crazy. A day to being like 95% vegan. And it wasn't through me telling him, you have to be vegan to be with me. I have never, ever said that to him. And I make it so clear. And I do it deliberately in front of other people too. I'm like, my partner eats this way because he wants to. It is not anything to do with me. I love him regardless. And it comes from a place of change within yourself, of education when requested, and some great dishes. All I did was make some amazing quesadillas, and he was like, I am down with that. They're from the Happy Pear. I did not make this recipe myself. I will link it in the show notes. Delicious. Whether you're vegan or not, this is a crowd pleaser. And all this is to say that if you want people to change, don't try to change them. You don't change them. You change you. You don't expect them to change, and you love them through whatever change they choose, because change is terrifying. There are coaches out there that just coach change. There are 100 books on how to change, right? Change will come when the person decides change will come. Change came to me when I decided I wanted to go vegan. Now, I didn't decide for everyone in the world they had to do that, because change won't come through negativity, through hanging on other people's opinions, and through being told what to do. And I believe that you're here because you're probably very much like me. You're probably at this point in the video because you're like, I'm resonating with this, right? And the reason why I do what I do and I work for myself is because I don't want to be told what to do. And as a next point of change, if you're looking for freedom, like that exists. When you come from a place of, I want this change because this is what I want, most people don't know who they are and what they stand for, but you're still here because you're different in the best way. And I'm so reminded, there's a lyric from a song and it's called Aaron Burr, Sir, and it's from Hamilton. Now, if you need to get anything done in life, Hamilton is the movie to watch. It has everything: war, love, feuds, rap, voices, amazing. It's wonderful. And it's so inspirational. It's beautiful. But there is a lyric in Aaron Burr, Sir, and it says, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what will you fall for? And to me, what I get and the meaning that I get from this quote is, I stand for my choices, as do you. It's not a question. It sounds like it is, but to me, it gives me meaning and it says, I stand for my choices, so do you. What are you standing for? What do you fall for? Right. And coming back to what you want, the life that you have now is just a reflection of the choices that you've made to get here. So if you've made some choices that you weren't happy with, it's time to choose again. It's time to figure out what it is that you want. And if you don't know, go find it. Instead of saying, I don't know, instead of waiting for change to magically come to you, a little bit of education goes a long way. And you can do that education as self education, go inward and ask what is important. What do I want? Where can I start? Ask yourself better questions. There's such a gift in empowered questions, in asking yourself better questions to get better results. So, on all of this, so when we take this all together and we think about change and about how we change, and we change from the inside out. When you change you, naturally people around you start to change. When you do it in a way that is not threatening to them, because people are scared of change. That's why if you've changed and you're different and someone's told you, you've changed. We've all had, when you're on some kind of personal development journey, there's always a friend that's like, you've changed. And they're not happy about it because you're not the same person as you were. Maybe it was just last week. You're not the same person, but they are. And change is scary to people because it unhinges everything for them. It can unhinge your life, it can uproot your family, it can confuse you in the workplace that you're in. If you start to believe in a better version of yourself in your life, you have to accept that the version that you're living is not what you want. How many people really want to look at that? But I believe that you're here because you do. So if you do, I would love to know your thoughts on change. And you can drop those in the comments, like tell me what resonated with you, or slide into my DMs at So Happy Success on Instagram. You can like jump in there and we can have a real discussion about what change is and what change means and how we get change that is the most effective, that is not telling people what to do. I mean, I worked in schools for so long. I worked in schools for 7 years and never did I tell kids what to do, especially when you're working in careers. It's not my place to tell a child what they should do with their life. That is a choice that they have to make. It is not on me to monitor them in a classroom, but I never had any problems. Not because I told them to sit down and be quiet, because I was just honest. And I was like, this is your choice. I'm here for you. It makes such a difference when you lead someone through change, when you coach someone through change, if it's what they want. But pardon the pun of, this is hilarious because obviously we're talking about veganism, but you're flogging a dead horse if you want someone to change that doesn't want to change. And it doesn't matter how radical you are in your attempts. And I know that veganism can feel very radical and can seem very radical. And the images that they'll show you are extreme because it's an extreme problem that's going on. But people don't change through that. Everyone is numb to the terrible things that happen in the world. But if you share your story, if you share it from a place of love, if you help people along the way, they're so much more likely to change. Whether it's veganism, whether it's their mindset, whether it's what they do with their finances, whether it is their business, whatever it is. So I would love to hear from you. Also, if this helped you and you had someone, this always happens to me when I watch or listen to information, I'm like, there's one person that is popping up in my head over and over again, and I know that they must consume this, then please share this with them. Sharing is caring, and I will catch you next week. In the meantime, know that if no one else has told you today, I believe in you and that you can do this, whatever it is that is on your soul to do right now. And like I said, I'll see you next week.